Welcome to the College Recruiter webinar. The subject for today's discussion will be on change hurts, but it doesn't have to. My name is Andrea mcewen-henderson, and I will be your host today. I am one of the national account managers with College Recruiter, and I have dozens of years of experience in helping large and small employers reach recent college graduates and students. My primary responsibilities are facilitating our webinars, moderating the discussions at our college recruiting bootcamp conferences, as well as working with small to mid-sized employers on their entry-level hiring needs. College Recruiter is the highest traffic college job board with 150,000 unique monthly visitors. We help employers reach recent graduates and students of 1-, 2-, and 4-year colleges and graduate schools. We have permission to deliver emails on behalf of our employer clients to 7 million recent graduates and 10 million students, and can target them by major, school, year of graduation, diversity, and more. Our other solutions for employers include job postings, targeted mobile banner ads, targeted display ads, virtual career fairs, and custom research projects. For more information about College Recruiter, you can reach us at www.collegerecruiter.com/contact or at 952-848-2211. Today's guest is David Sarnowski, Customer Experience Manager at HarQen. David has 18 years of experience across education, coaching, and marketing, helping clients align and accelerate their recruitment processes and delivering the client business outcomes that matter to them. I'll now turn the webinar over to David. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Andrea, and welcome everybody. It's a pleasure to have you with us today, and I'm excited today to talk to you about change. Now, more often than not, when something changes or I'm trying to do something new, 9 times out of 10 I feel like this poor devil smashing his computer screen in, and the reason is that often we know that we want to change, we know we need to change, but actually learning how to do it in such a way that we're going to increase adoption of that new process or that new technology is something that we're not particularly good at. So that's what I want to talk about today, and let's dive in. Before I begin, I do want to highlight for you again a great book by William Bridges called Managing Transitions. His thinking on the way that you go about managing the change, whatever that change is, whether it is a change in process or it is a change to new technology, is really interesting. It's really insightful. It's a very light read. I highly recommend it and think that it's a great tool for you guys to check out. Now, you may have heard this stat floating around. Harvard Business School has this in a number of their articles, but 70% of change initiatives fail. 70% of the time that we try to do something differently, it doesn't work out. Now, I do want to clarify what fail means, because some people see this stat and say, there's no way that this can be true. And if we're thinking about a fail being Hindenburg proportions, that we tried to do something new and just everything blew up on our faces, you're absolutely right. It's not that 70% of the time that's what's happening. But we look at a fail as any time your change doesn't result in an improvement in your current situation. So if you invest time and effort and energy to go from doing something one way and go to doing something another way, and you don't reap a benefit either in increased performance, efficiency, or benefits for the planet, whatever your identified target is for change, if you don't see benefit, then that's a fail. So even though you may still be operating straight and steady and nothing really changed one way or the other, you invested a lot of time and effort to get there, and if you don't see a return on that change, that's what we call a fail. Now, why do they fail? Obviously, some fails are outside of our control, the act of God. Sometimes we do just screw up and pick the wrong to change whatsoever. We haven't thought it through. We've just said that, oh, this new thing, whatever that new thing is so great that flipping it on and transitioning it to it should be easy and we don't need to think about it. But you do. You absolutely do. Now, the first thing I want to highlight for you is that there's a big difference between change and transition. And understanding the difference between the two is really going to help you not only with your planning, but also ultimately improving the adoption of whatever change you're trying to make. Now, change is situational. So very recently, I took my wife and my son and we went on vacation to Canada. So on Thursday, we were in Milwaukee. Friday, we were in Montreal. The physical change, Montreal has a different language. It has a different layout. It's situational. I was doing this, and now I'm doing that. That's change. Now, transition is psychological. There's a lot that comes into play when I go from a place that I know very well to a place that's new. There's the different language and all those things, that's a practical change, but psychologically gearing myself up to be successful is really what transition is. And if you think about that in terms of our road trip, I was trapped in the car for a long time with a 3-year-old who required potty breaks numerous occasions, and we ran through construction and crazy drivers. I had to gear myself up to make it through that transition period so that I could even experience the change. And this is something you need to think about. So first thing to understand, too, with transition, after you understand that it is the psychological transition, is that you must understand that it starts with giving something up. When you transition from something, even when it's old and clunky and doesn't work well, whatever it is, it's something that you know, and it's something that you have to give up. And there are people who are going to hold on to that thing. And you need to understand that asking somebody to change involves them giving something up. And it's crucial that you understand that. Now, there are 4 P's that will help us prepare for change and help us to set up planning to be successful. And these will help guide us in dealing with that. Number 1 is purpose. You really do need to understand what is the issue or opportunity that's driving the change. Why are you trying to do something new? And it's really important that you understand that you have to phrase this, whatever this reasoning is, as a problem. You need to say, look, it's a problem, and we need to change to solve that problem. It's not just that something's new and fun and interesting. New and fun and interesting is exciting for people for about 2 minutes, and the minute it gets hard, they'll get rid of it. Okay? Again, just hammering that home, Seth Godin highlighted that no business buys a solution to a problem they don't have. They don't. And people are the same way. If they don't perceive a problem, they're not going to stick with you. If you have something brand new and shiny, they might be excited for a little bit, but the minute it gets hard, they're going to pine for the old thing. And so you really need to work to make the status quo seem more dangerous, more problem-prone than diving into the unknown, because the unknown is what makes people scared. And you need to make sure that they are afraid of the problem that exists more than being in the wilderness. Next, you need to be able to give them a picture. Now, even though you're not selling the solution, you don't want to sell the solution, you want to sell the problem, you do need to be able to make sure that people can envision and see what life will be like after the problem is solved. You don't want to be a negative Nancy, you don't want to be just down in the weeds hammering all the problems. You also want to give some positive, and it's really helpful to keep kind of people on track and focus with what's going on. So you do want to be able to have a picture, and you, especially if you're the one proposing change, you really have to make sure that you understand what the picture is. Okay. Next, you need to set up a plan. You have to plan for the change and the transition. And again, planning for that interim period. My wife on our vacation was great. She had games for our son. She had snacks portioned out. She had looked at the map and studied where good places to stop. She had done an amazing job preparing us for the transition phase so that we were going to be as comfortable as possible even when we're stuck in the car. She did a great job making a plan. All right, so in terms of getting our plan together, it's 3 questions you need to answer which will help you with your plan. Number 1, what is actually changing? So again, you might say, oh, we want to adopt a new piece of technology. So the change is we have this new piece of technology. That's not actually what's changing. You need to dig back down, and this starts to flow into question number 2. What's actually going to be different? When you move to this new technology, what will people have to do now that they didn't have to do before? And what will they have to give up doing that they were doing before? You will need to be detailed about what actually is going to change, and this is going to be crucial to helping you get over the hump with the people who are going to resist your change. And then the last question you need to be able to answer is, who's going to lose what? Whenever you make a change, people will give up something. Again, remember we said transition begins with an end. What are they going to lose? And what they're going to lose can be a lot of different things. They could end up losing status. So let's say that you're giving up a process that's really a pain in the butt and only one person knows how to do in your organization. Well, even though it may be a pain in the butt for that person knows that they're valuable because they're the one that knows how to do this thing. And if this is going to change and suddenly everybody knows, they're giving up status. So they could give up status. They could give up control. They could be giving up competence. Again, if you imagine that even if you're giving up and moving to a new process, people understand how the old system works. It may not work well, but they know exactly what to do and when to do it. And it can be really unnerving when you move to something new and suddenly you don't know how things work anymore. So you really need to take some time to think about who's going to lose what. And it's really important that you understand the person who's going to lose the most are going to be the people who are going to raise the most problems and be the squeakiest wheels throughout the process. So you really need to dig down and understand who's going to lose out and think about that in your planning so that you can prepare to address the concerns that they're going to raise. All right. Now, as part of your planning process, you need to understand that, again, you've got your transition period, which is that ending phase, here represented in the blue. Then you're going to move into the neutral zone, and the neutral zone is going to be this period of time where you don't know exactly what's happening, where you've given up the old and you're starting to adopt the new, and you're kind of in this gray period. Now, this is coming directly out of the Managing Transitions book, so there's a very famous diagram, so you may have seen this before. Your goal with planning should be to try to make the neutral zone as short as possible in terms of time frame. You're never going to get rid of it, but you're going to work to minimize it. Then you're going to move into your new beginning period. And it's crucial in your planning that you also carry your plan beyond when you flip the new technology or the new process on. Your plan has to cover how are we going to work the first 3 weeks when we do this thing. And you've got to make sure that that's built into your plan. If your plan stops when you start your new process or your new technology, you're going to be setting yourself up for failure. Then lastly, everybody needs to have a part to play. And they need to know exactly what it is, what their role is, not only when they move to the new system, but what their job is during the transition period. It's crucial that you understand your role in the organization and you identify what's the role to play at the CEO level, what's the role to play at the operational level, and you need to put the parts to play in place for people so that they know here's what I'm supposed to do. They've got something to grab onto. All right, now, it's really important that you put realistic expectations in place in terms of seeing change. A lot of time when we imagine change, and especially when we're imagining new technology, for example, we envision incredible improvements in ROI or efficiency. You need to bring yourself back down to earth, and let's talk about that. So first of all, here's what we think will happen. You know, we have our previous process, and we assume that when we put our new process or technology in place, wham, we're going to see this huge uptick. That's not what's going to happen. Here's what's actually going to happen. What's going to happen is when you transition, there's going to be a period of time where you struggle, where things don't perform as you normally assume. And this is because this is, again, a period where you switch to something new. People don't really know how this works. There's going to be a period where they have to work the kinks out. You know, the other thing is that, again, when we plan and change, we can tell everybody exactly how a new technology works. We can demo it and test it. But until it's actually put into production, we cannot imagine all the snafus and barriers we're going to run into. So you're involved in change, that there's going to be a period where things slow down, and that's okay. That's crucial for you to let them know that it's okay, and it's crucial that you know it's okay. And the other is you need to stick with it. This is a time that you really need to think about small wins. What are the things that you can highlight for people that they're doing well, so that even when your production numbers go down a little bit, you can be highlighting positives for people to hang on to? Because if you don't bail out, eventually that curve is going to cross back over and your performance will definitely improve. Now I wanted to show you this. This is a real quick graph identifying app adoption. And when you think about, again, what's easier than downloading an app? iPhones and Android, I can 2 seconds have a new thing on my phone, and I've seen a million apps that have promised to change my life. But you can see that over a third of people visit an app 10 or more times in the first month. Only 17% of those people, of the third, are actually using it 3 months later. So this is just to show you, again, in terms of adoption, if you think about that, oh, it's easy. I just downloaded Nike Running, and it's going to track my running. Everything's great. And I probably use it for a week, and then I let it go. And that's because in the app world, you don't have a real good way to plan for the transition for people, and you also don't really have a good way to support people once they've started. Once they've downloaded that app, it's hard to give them the support they need. But so this is just something to show you there, to give you some specifics. Now, I do want to just take a second and talk very quickly about technology. A lot of times people can show us a technology demo and it blows us away, and it's great. But I want to remind you that you are not the demo. Anytime you see a technology demonstration, and we give them here, you are seeing a demonstration in the most perfect and controlled circumstances ever. That's not to say that the technologies are bad or anything like that. It's just to make sure that you understand that if you assume after seeing the demo that the minute you turn your new technology on that your life is going to be perfect, you're in la la land. That's where you need to go back here and remember that you're going to fire up this new technology, and when you get it into the weeds of your actual production process, there's going to be a period of downtime, and you need to be prepared for that. The other thing that really matters here is the concept of shared sacrifice in terms of change. Now, when you ask somebody to change, especially in a production environment, it's crucial that they feel that you're part of that process. A lot of times we force change down onto people. We say, hey, we need a new process, and you guys have to just lump it, deal with it. You're going to be much more successful if you can make sure that you understand and they understand that you're part of this process, that you're in it with them. And this, again, is part of your transition planning. So if you're asking people on the production side of things, whether it's your recruitment team to do something different, or if you're in manufacturing for them to do something different, they need to feel like you own that too. Because if they just feel like they're the ones who are putting up with all the transition, and the people from on high are just shouting, hey, go faster, you're going to get more sabotage and more resistance. The last thing here too is you need to really be able to communicate. And I know people say this a lot, communicating during change is crucial. Well, it really is. And you need to communicate as clearly as you can. And part of communication is letting people know that it's okay for them to mourn. If you remember, that transition is mourning. It's letting go. It's going to start with me giving up what I knew how to do before. It's really important, one, that you let people do that. It's okay for them to complain a little bit. You can't stifle that. You want to communicate clearly to them, and they're going to grumble, and that's okay. Let them grumble, listen to their grumblings, and communicate right back to them. Keep them focused on the problem that you're trying to solve, and keep them focused ultimately on the end vision. And the other is you need to be consistent. Okay? So when you identify that there's a problem, and you identify that there's going to be a transition period that involves some uncertainty, and you say, we know it's hard using a new system. We sympathize, we empathize with you. That's great. People like to hear that. They like to hear felt and supported. But if then you flip right around and the next thing out of your mouth is, hey, I know we transitioned to the new system, but I noticed your numbers are down. Pick it up. Those two messages are not consistent with each other, and what's going to happen is the person that you're complaining to about their numbers or their production, the first thing they're going to do is look to go right back to the thing that they used to do when they knew how to perform. They're going to ditch your change for the thing that they knew how to do before. So be consistent in your language. Okay. Again, I want to really highlight that in your communication, you want to let people discuss their fears, discuss their concerns, and I want to make sure that in your communication you are communicating about the small wins, highlighting when you're being successful as you're waiting to get to that next stage. And when you do that, when you put the 4 P's together and you bring your communication, everything comes together, and I love it when a change comes together. Well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate the opportunity to share some insights about change with you, and I'd like to go ahead and open the call for some questions.
Thank you so much, David. And we do have some questions for you. So the first question is, you mentioned that people have to perceive the problem. Why do they still resist the change even when they can?
Great. That's a great question. The reason that people often resist change, even when they see it as a problem, and I do want to highlight that, you got to explain to them that it's a problem. People don't move if they don't know that there's something wrong. The challenge is that you got to go back to remember who's losing what. So if you have a problem, and the solution to the problem means that I have to give up a lot of control or a lot of competence, or I'm giving up something, that's why they resist. So it's really important that you think about and talk to those people and understand what they're giving up. And you need to be able to communicate to them that, hey, you're going to give this up, but here's the role you have. Remember, we talked about part to play. Here's the role you're going to have in the new transition. So if you can convince somebody that, hey, we're going to solve a problem which is important for you, and I know you're going to give up some control here. Here's the control you're going to have in the new system. If you can explain that to them, that's really important. So the part to play is crucial, and understanding who's giving up what. Those are the 2 things that I think typically, if you haven't thought those through, that's why people resist even when they can understand the problem.
Great, great. Now the second question is, how do we get everyone on the same page when something does need to change?
The key to that actually is understanding that you may have to have multiple problems. So when you're thinking to yourself, let's take the solution of adding a new piece of technology. Well, if you're at the management level, you might be thinking that the problem I need to solve is efficiency for my team. That's why I need to buy this new technology so that my team can be more efficient. That's the problem that I'm solving for me. But that problem may not resonate with the people at the production level. They might feel like, hey, I'm already working my tail off and you're trying to make me even faster, and if you can make me even faster, chances are we're going to downsize or something like that. You need to make sure that you massage your problem so that it resonates at that level. So you might have to create multiple problems to get people on the same page with the change. So really think about that. You might have one change you want to implement, but you might have a different change or a problem at the CEO level that it's solving, a different problem at the management level, and a different problem at the operational level. So if you want everybody on the same page, you're going to have to diverge your problems.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, could you cover the change versus transition difference again?
Sure. Again, just to highlight for you, change is situational. Again, if we imagine, let's say, just implementing a new piece of technology. So you've got one applicant tracking system, and tomorrow you want to turn on a new one. That change is fairly clear. I have a new technology. It has new features. It has new tools. So the change are those new things that I need to learn. The transition is, have I thought about all the things that are going to need to change in terms of process in order for this new technology to work for me? What are the new ways I'm going to have to think about things in order for me to be successful here? If I'm still operating in the old mindset, but I have a new set of tools, I'm not going to get there. So transition is managing the mindset change from one to the other.
Well, the final question is this. When we let people mourn, are we opening the door for people to whine until the change is killed?
That's a great question. And it can be a little bit scary to kind of open up the floodgates and say, go ahead, tell me what you're concerned about. Tell me what you're scared about. Number one, you do need to open those floodgates, because I got news for you. People are going to talk about what they're scared about or nervous about, whether you want them to or not. If you just put on a happy face and try to squash every frustration, it's just going to build up, and eventually that's going to explode and hurt you. So even if your change is successful, you might build up so much bad blood with the people that you force through into that change that on the other side of things, you've lost a lot of credibility, you've lost support and follow through. So you need to let them mourn. You can absolutely put limits on that. You don't need to say, hey guys, we're going to let you whine and cry for the next 2 weeks. So you could say, we're going to have a couple of listening sessions, and after we get through these listening sessions, we really want to concentrate on the positive. So you can kind of put a limit on that to make sure that it doesn't spin out of control. The other is, again, listen to people and say, I've heard you, and it's really important that you say that I've heard you, and you need to give them something back that confirms that you've heard them. That's the other thing, is that people will kind of complain and complain until they feel like someone's actually listened to me. So that's another really important component, that in addition to hearing them and letting them vent, you need to respond back with how you're actioning their responses.
Thank you so much, David, and thank you for attending this College Recruiter webinar. The subject of today's discussion was on change hurts, but it doesn't have to. My name is Andrea McEwen-Henderson, and I was your host today. I am one of the national account managers with College Recruiter, and I have a dozen years of experience in helping large and small employers with recent college graduates and students. My primary responsibilities are facilitating our webinars, moderating the discussions at our college recruiting bootcamp conferences, as well as working with small to mid-sized employers on their entry-level hiring needs. College Recruiter is the highest traffic college job board with 150,000 unique monthly visitors. We help employers reach recent graduates and students of 1-, 2-, and 4-year colleges and graduate schools. We have permission to deliver emails on behalf of our employer clients to 7 million recent graduates and 10 million students. We can also target them by major, school, year of graduation, diversity, and more. Our other solutions for employers include job postings, targeted mobile banner ads, targeted display ads, virtual career fairs, and custom research projects. For more information about how College Recruiter can help you and to learn more about us, you can reach us at www.collegerecruiter.com/contact or at 952-848-2211. Today's guest was David Sarnowski, Customer Experience Manager at HarQen. Thank you for joining us today.